At its core, Agenda 21 is about control. Control of the land, natural resources, and entire populations. It seeks to control the air by regulation of carbon emissions, the ground by sustainable development, and the sea through environmental regulations. Officially stated, Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Agenda 21 paves the way for extraordinary UN control.
Most people are unaware that one of the greatest threats to their freedom may be a United Nations program with plans to depopulate 95% of the world. The name of this plan is Agenda 21. On paper, Agenda 21 sounds like a fantastic idea. Who wouldn't want to save the planet? But the real goal of Agenda 21 is much darker and sinister. For you to understand why this program is horrible, I have to explain the hidden hand behind it. The Fed. Who controls the world? What do they want to achieve? We have to go back to 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve. In November 1910, 7 men met at Jekyll Island Club off the coast of Georgia. These people were representatives of the greatest banks in the United States. They wanted to reform the nation's banking system. The meeting was in secret. They did not admit that the meeting occurred until the 1930s. Their goal was to create a single central bank which they ruled.
A central bank is an institution that produces the currency of an entire nation. Central banks have two specific powers: the control of the interest rates and the control of the money supply or inflation. A central bank does not simply supply a government's economy with money, it loans it to them at interest. It is very important to understand that the entire structure of the system can only produce one thing in the long run: debt. Where do you think the money to pay for that debt comes from? It can only come from the central bank, which means the central bank has to continue to increase its money supply to temporarily cover the debt that has been created. So since that money is loaned out with interest as well, that only creates even more debt.
A key question we must ask ourselves when it comes to international global governing bodies is, who is in charge? Who is making the decisions? The forerunner to the United Nations was the League of Nations. It was created under the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Outside of Britain, the Fabian Society's ultimate goal has been the establishment of a socialist world government. The Society's concerns with international organization was articulated early in the Fabian documents like International Government by L.S. Wolff in 1916, which formed the basis for the creation 3 years later at the end of World War I of the League of Nations in collaboration with the Mellner Group. The League of Nations was created by the Rockefeller family. They were responsible for funding the entire operation. Unsurprisingly, the next Fabian project was the United Nations, which was created in 1945 at the end of World War II with the involvement of the Fabian Socialist Rockefellers and their Council on Foreign Relations.
Evil men have already divided up the world into regions, and they've got it all planned. They want to rule the world. Their goal is to reduce the population to 500 million, with a few of them as the elite get to rule the world. God has plans for the world, and so does Satan. And Satan's plan is no people here, maybe just a few, and a one-world government. The Bible says perilous times shall come.
When you boil it down, there are 9 basic tenets of Agenda 21. Move citizens off private land and into urban housing. Create vast wilderness spaces inhabited by large carnivores. Eliminate cars and create walkable cities. Support chosen private businesses with public funds for sustainable development. Make policy decisions that favor the greater good over individuals. Drastically reduce the use of power, water, and anything else that creates carbon pollution. Use bureaucracies to make sweeping decisions outside of democratic processes. Increase taxes, fees, and regulations. And finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
Stay tuned for part 2 about Bill Gates, 5G, and coronavirus.